Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Digital Edge podcast. I'm your host Dominic with my co-host Francoise,
Hi, Dominique.
and today we're looking into an interesting topic. Anthropic came out with a research study. Anthropic, as in the AI company that develops Claude, and they did some research into labor market impacts of AI, and they measured who would be impacted from AI technology. And so we wanted to take a look at that today and discuss what this means. Francois, do you want to give an introduction into the topic and that
Yes.
research?
Yeah, and when the report came out, there was a lot of buzz because obviously one of the ongoing question about AI is, is my job going to be impacted?
Right.
So what Anthropic did is look at some measures of AI automation, which tasks could be automated, and by deriving that level of automation, they linked it back to some different roles, and they identified that some professions could be highly impacted by AI, highly automated, which means that those jobs could disappear. And I don't know if you want to display the core graph that was at the center of the
Yeah.
of the research. I
Yeah.
think
Exactly. Yeah. This
what
one
was
was I think the key visual in the research
yeah,
paper that kind of explains what they were looking at.
yeah. So I think in red we see where AI is already developed, and in coding and programming, in customer service, for example. But the blue area is what could be scary because it's the potential of deploying AI. So, I mean, in some ways, there are some reassuring facts, like, the very real life, tangible work is still going to be here, like being in agriculture or being in constructions, or, or transportation for that matter. But what was interesting is that a lot of the AI impact is going to happen in the white collar space, in a desk job, and very much also in entry level jobs. Is this how you read it as well?
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating. When I looked at this the first time, I was like looking around, like, hey, what's the pattern here? And it really is like a stark contrast between the knowledge work and the work that interacts with the physical environment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you can tell, right? I mean, right now, if you look at the state of AI, it's mostly focused around aggregating knowledge, being able to respond to knowledge based inquiries, right? I think down the road, the desire by many parties is to enter the blank space here as well through robotics, which would also be driven by AI, right? But I think Anthropic for this study, they were looking at, hey, what do we have with the current technology set and where would that fit? Hence the red and the blue charts here.
I think to your point, I was thinking the same. I felt that maybe the robotic space has already been implemented in many factories. We have replaced blue collars by robots in car manufacturing and a lot of those industries. So maybe that, revolution, I'm not saying it's over, but a lot has been done already in that space. So I agree with you that the next wave is really about knowledge-based workers, which is very maybe scary compared to what we have seen in the past, where it was more about replacing forced labor.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a fascinating part about the current state of AI, right? This is I think that aspect is completely different from, like you said, in the past we used to focus on automating labor and simple tasks with machines, and now all of a sudden we've leapt to the other side of responsibilities, right? You have like the strategic aspects, planning, coordinative activities, and so forth, right? Which do not produce tangible artifacts, if you will, that interact with the physical world, and hence it's such a fascinating technology because again, right, it's different from the machines in the past on the factory floor to now to the desk effectively.
Yeah, and it reminds me that a month ago I was speaking at a conference, and one of the participants said, "But maybe in the near term we will be managed by AI. So they will take AI will take the management and decision making position,"
Yes, it
which
could.
not really accepted by the audience, but maybe it could happen.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this exact topic, right? Where the middle management or even executive leadership is in
Yeah,
this space that we just saw of the knowledge worker, and I think when we spoke about it was like 2 months ago or so, right? As a hypothetical direction of where this could go. Meanwhile, Jack Dorsey, and he took up this approach of eliminating middle management to a large extent as part of a
yeah,
recent restructuring, where he really is believing in that, hey, we can do a lot more with fewer leadership roles and having more people in execution then, right? And so this, we'll see where that goes and if that really materializes, right? But this is the first model that I had heard where a leader would say, hey, let's go this path. Let's utilize AI to where it actually fits in this knowledge
mhm,
space, including leadership roles, and then have the people in the organization focus on tasks that really are better suited for humans.
yeah. So if we look at this picture, I mean, there are some questions. What should business leaders do? What should employees do? Is this true? What is the intention of Anthropic to, publish this type of report and maybe to shock everyone? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I'm always skeptical when somebody publishes research that effectively benefits themselves as a
Absolutely.
result, right? So it's
Yeah.
could be biased. Um, on the one hand, right, I think the empirical evidence of what is happening has some support for the findings. Naturally, right? I mean, we see a lot of people. Um, uh, have less work to do because of what the technology has been able to do. And on the other hand, right, you have the author of the paper basically advocating for their own product, which would, in this pre-IPO stage of the company, would give it higher valuation, for example, right? I don't know if that's the
Mhm.
case, but this is certainly the intent. If you look at um, looking at investors who want to get the value out of their investment into the company or similar companies, there has to be a way to get that investment back at some point. And I think the desire is probably to work towards, rather than paying salaries to humans, paying fees to the companies that replace some of the work that
Yeah.
humans have been doing. So I don't know. What do you think? Is there
Yeah,
a bias in
probably,
there?
it's what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you preach, the more it happens. Because indeed, I mean, still at the moment, we see a lot of people using AI, but in terms of productivity, it's not there yet. And when we say, AI is making us gain time, this is not true. Actually, there are now surveys showing that it's actually taking more time because you need to verify, you need to cross-check, you need to make it your own. So it depends on which task. It helps on some, but then there is this all control verification that needs to happen. So all in all, do we really gain time for the time being? Still a question mark.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree. But still, I think as managers or employees, we know it's coming, and if you are a young developer, what is your future? When this report says that 75% of coding tasks will be replaced by AI. I mean, these are real questions, right?
Right, right. And when that topic comes up, I'm a bit more of an optimist, maybe more so than others, right? Who see AI and technology in general as a threat because it's unknown, it's new, it's going really fast right now as well. But I think oftentimes these claims of the job market impact or job losses or job eliminations are maybe a little bit premature, because I'm thinking more in terms of opportunities being created. What I see is, for example, yesterday I was doing some ideation and doing some research into a potential new product that we're working on. And rather than having to have a team and getting multiple stakeholder feedbacks and workshops, I could just work with a AI tool and do some increase in preliminary work, right? So what I think it does in many cases with AI, it's not so much replacing the work that other people did, but it can make us more capable and allow us to do more work independently. So
Yeah,
with three people, you might be able to do, just guessing, the work of six people, which then means companies that are small have then a greater leverage to do more work, right? And so
yeah,
I think it's a kind of like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset topic as well, right? Where it's not just replacing jobs or work, it can also allow more people to do more work with the same effort, right?
exactly.
And so I
Yeah,
think I see it more in that regard, right? Which opens up new opportunities where you couldn't afford to hire somebody, or you couldn't pursue a certain scope in your business, or whatever the case may be, right? So I like seeing it in that regard better. What do you think?
yeah, totally agree. I mean, this morning I was looking at, literacy and how helping people to read and count. I mean, especially in Europe where you have migrants and they need to acquire the language here, and the demand is increasing. The finances, the grants are decreasing. So the question is, how can you do equal or even more with less?
Hmm.
And that's where I believe there is the opportunity. And obviously with AI, education tailored to each individual is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. So I think the only question, if that was really to take place, I think the only remaining question is whether the cost that would have been traditionally allocated to personnel then just needs to be transferred to the AI service provider, which then again reduces some of that possibility of smaller organizations or even individuals to take on
Yeah.
bigger problem solving tasks.
Yeah, it ends up to always the economic equation.
Yes.
And if you keep the humans because they do more or different tasks, plus you have the cost of AI, that could be an expensive solution.
Yes. So it is. So it is.
Okay. So yeah, I think that was an interesting report that Anthropic issued, and probably there will be more and different ones in the future, just to keep pushing in the direction of enabling AI and implementing it in many organizations. But as we said, we always have to take those reports with a grain of salt, because there is always a hidden agenda depending on who publishes.
Yes, yes, indeed, very much so. Yeah, and it's again, it's a fascinating time, right? There's a lot of change happening, and I think it's something worthwhile monitoring really on a monthly basis, or even faster, to see what the implications are, what we can learn, and how we can adopt these tools to bring value and ultimately help people and customers.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for the discussion.
Yeah, great topic. Thank you, Francois. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to subscribe to get more content from us and more insights into digital transformation. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.